Hi everyone! Today we're celebrating Social Justice Day with slam poems. Our lovely contestants will be competing for a cash prize and for a good cause. Remember to be respectful to your peers and please stay off your phones and enjoy the speeches. We hope you take something away from these amazing slam poems, and remember, if you hear something you don't agree with, please keep it to yourselves.
And first up, we have Ash and Jane with their soapbox speech on grad night transparency. Here you go.
When I was in eighth grade, I went to Disneyland. As the park was closing, hundreds of students started entering the park. I was confused. What was happening? And that's when I realized that these seniors were about to experience their grad night at a wonderful theme park. Ever since then, I've been so excited to experience my own. That was until last year, seniors mentioned that they paid $200 to go mini golfing, which is something that usually costs less than $20. So when we were introduced to the Civic Action Project, I approached my partner with the same question that I'm approaching you with. Why can't seniors have any understanding of what their grad night will be?
We know that some students believe that the charm behind grad night is a surprise, but is a surprise really worth paying $200? That's what we're setting out to change. We recently met with the grad night committee, and together we drafted some new ideas of what we could do instead. We came up with ideas of more student input and more information awareness amongst the students. Were you aware there was a financial aid option, or were you also aware that the price of grad night includes all food, drinks, prizes, and entertainment? This is the kind of information we want to be shared with future senior classes. This could look like a grad night committee member joining a counselor during their senior expectation presentation to seniors at the beginning of the year, or any other presentation. The idea we want to see implemented the most is student input. The type of input we're talking about is a survey filled out by students, as well as adding a student onto the committee itself. With this idea, the committee was thrilled with more communication with students. By collaborating with students, the committee can build upon our ideas as well as keeping our expectations in check. For the idea of adding a student onto the committee, they proposed that they can help manage social media accounts to help spread information more easily. By doing this, we can add a student voice and help build a bridge between students and the committee.
As we've mentioned, senior year is the highlight of all high school students, and grad night is their grand finale. It's the last time to see school friends, go to a school event, and essentially the last time these seniors can be kids before they become true adults. That's why grad night transparency is so important. So we ask, talk to parents and friends to help us push forward this idea and create a new system. There's not much we can do for our senior class, but if we sit back and do nothing, then this problem will continue to grow. Don't let a senior's best night become their worst. Thank you.
Thank you for that very lovely speech. Next up, we have Brooke with her soapbox speech on pesticides.
Thank you. The world that exists today, cultivated from the earth, then modified by pesticides. Silent killers, effective to only what we see, look for, and yet they do so much more to us and the ecosystem, disintegrating us. It is only a matter of time before that is passed on to us. Illness is upon us, disintegrating us too. However, our world would be drastically different and harsher without these in place. It's not just the here and now, this time, this year, this day, this second, but rather years, decades, even centuries that this silent killer to our world has been going on. It doesn't need to just be pesticides and chemicals, but rather the silent killer of greed that we, as people, have towards a seemingly endless environment. As Ralph Waldo Emerson, along with the help of Henry David Thoreau, wrote in their essay Nature, they envisioned the simple things in life: a leaf, a sunbeam, a landscape, the ocean. Nature, big or small, is affected, a leaf to a ray of sunshine. All of this can be taken away in an instant just by chemicals. Since nature is consumed by only us, we are the ones that are affecting it. The chemicals that we put out there are riddling the environment. Thus, if this continues, the world is going to turn into a drastic, dark place, only with black, white, and gray. No life, no existence, no nothing, anything from what we see now, gone in an instant. Furthermore, the inaction shifts our world to have this being more of a reality. Understanding Emerson as he depicts the nature and all its beauty to the natural world as a breath of fresh air. We are always moving on as a society, but how can we help nature move on with us and have it be sustained for so many generations to come? However, the negatives that I have mentioned, pesticides are the reasons why we are here so far into our lives from where we were nearly a century ago. The problems that were attempted, things that were not possible, the amount of food, very inconsistent, and a food supply for a growing population. These problems were attempted. Solution has brought such a train wreck of a disaster in its wake and its accompaniment of our modern way of life. Modern life, the demand of food supply, us, atop of the food chain, and our priorities outweigh the needs of nature. Population, consistent to the growth and the demand of high qualities and for natural food supply, these are what we need pesticides for, to control the variable. Without pesticides, there's no telling what our world would look like. Very inconsistent and much fewer people, and it would be very hard to sustain the level of living that we are at right now. Along with Emerson's point about how it is being human nature to be blatantly clueless of the natural beauty of the world, Aldo Leopold in his book, The Land Ethic, points out this flaw exerted in other voices. The result today is progressive and mutual deterioration, not only for plants and soils of the animals, but the community subsidizing them. Due to the amount of chemicals and pesticides that are in the world today that are causing these problems because the environment is taking the biggest hit. Soil, the basic building block of our country, of our agriculture, of anything in the world. It's being drastically damaged because the amount of pesticides that we're using are seeping into the soil, causing so much of a ripple effect. Animals, they eat those plants, and then we eat them. So eventually, it is going to be on us. Whether we like it or not, we have to understand the ripple effect and realize that this has to be somewhat controlled, or else our world as we know it is going to plummet. The silent killers are slowly seeping into our planet, every single living thing, every single living day. I challenge you to find alternatives, to limit the damage. Appreciate the little things is a common saying. However, do we appreciate the little things of nature? Do we appreciate the little things that it's provided us and how far we've come just because of nature itself? Think about that. And with that, I leave you to ponder the major question, how can you combat the silent killer? Thank you.
Thank you for that very good speech on pesticides. Next up, we have Arena with her speech on orcas in captivity.
Hi, my name is Arena, and I'm going to be talking about orcas in captivity. So imagine spending your whole life, or the majority of your life, trapped in a 4x4 box with limited food that doesn't nourish your body either, and just like the air is filled with chemicals. Well, that's what life is like for most orcas. Orcas are taken from their home in the wild and put into little bathtub-like structures for the majority of their lives. This can affect them physically and mentally. Orcas are some of the most intelligent animals on this planet. Their brains are very similar to ours. They have something in their brain called the limbic system that we also have, and this is where all emotions come from: happiness, joy, sadness, even depression. So orcas being trapped in captivity can feel all these emotions, and their limbic system is a lot bigger than ours, so they feel these emotions a lot stronger than we do. So being trapped in captivity, orcas have been studied and shown that they show signs of depression. So how it affects them physically is their bodies. If you can see this orca over here, you can see it's scratched up. Orcas in captivity, when they're around unfamiliar orcas, they will, in a way, bully each other because that's not their family. They don't know who these people are. So they will bully them, and that's what those teeth marks are from. Another sign of an unhealthy orca is their dorsal fin. You can see the one over here. Their dorsal fin is flopped over. In the wild, you will never see orcas like that because that's not healthy. Also, their teeth will be very damaged because they'll be biting on the glass trying to escape because that's not their homes. Them being trapped in captivity affects them in so many ways. Their lifespan is basically cut in half. Orcas in the wild can live 50 to 90 years, and orcas in captivity maybe live 10 to 20 at most. If you've ever been to SeaWorld, you will be able to see these effects on the orcas, and it's pretty visible. So what can we do? Well, there's not much we can do. Some people would say, oh, just release them back into the wild. It's really not that simple. If orcas have spent their majority of their life in captivity, they can't just be released back into the wild because they have a part of the brain called the paralimbic system that we don't have. The paralimbic system is where they get all their echolocation, communication skills, navigation, hunting skills. That's where they get all that from. And when they don't practice those skills, it's the same with us. If we don't practice a skill for a while, we're gonna lose that skill. So they don't practice those skills because they're in captivity, they're being hand-fed. So releasing them back into the wild would be even more detrimental than keeping them here. Orcas that were put into the wild as they already were adults, we could section off a part of the ocean and let them basically be free under watch in a way. But orcas that were born into captivity, there's really no solution for them. But something that we together can do is not support companies like SeaWorld that capture orcas for the pure entertainment of humans, and not just because they want to help them, but strictly just to ride around on them and train them like they're dogs. They're not dogs, they're sea creatures, and they deserve to be in their home, and their home is the ocean, not a bathtub. Thank you.
Thank you for that very wonderful speech. Next up, we have Madison with her speech on effects of microplastics.
Let's start with a quick introduction to plastic. Plastic,
You can start from the beginning if you want.
It's okay. Originally, plastic was made to make our lives easier. It was a cheaper solution and alternative to using materials like wood and metal. But scientists and researchers didn't take into account the effect it would have on future generations. And now when we go to the grocery store, we should notice how a bunch of our drinks and our food and even our bread is covered in plastic. And this is dangerous to us because we end up consuming these items without knowing that we're actually consuming all the plastic that's around this. Plastics can also be found everywhere, as I said, and especially in the water and the soda we drink. The contact between the food and these plastics is super dangerous because we never notice us drinking it. Nobody here thinks, oh, they're eating plastic because it's how small it is. And scientists and researchers have classified the digestion of plastic into 3 categories. The first stage is the blockage of the digestive system. The second is the release of toxic chemicals. And the third is the breakdown of organs and tissues. This is super dangerous for us, and it's also linked to neurotoxicity. And neurotoxicity causes diseases like Alzheimer's, which is more common in the elderly. It also causes inflammation and liver metabolic disorders. It's also huge and big harm to our animals. Recent studies have shown that mice who consume microplastics have a lot of brain cell damage. And this also leads to us because this microplastic threat is so new. We have no idea if it affects our brain or not. And the studies with mice have shown that it can also lead to our brain, but more research is still needed. And it also affects fish because it affects fish's capability to swim. And it's also dangerous for us because we end up consuming these fishes or these seafood. And microplastics is going into our body, which is super, super dangerous. I need everybody to do their part and to stop buying single-use plastics. It's important to take into account the well-being of yourself and the well-being of the earth. It's more important to buy environmental friendly solutions, especially biodegradable products, and now companies is sort of all over the UK and New Zealand have done their switch to switching to paper bags instead of plastic bags, which the US still does. And yes, thank you for listening.
Thank you for that speech. Next up, we have a special guest, but it's going to take 1 minute just to set up, and then he'll begin.
To mute it. So I can mute it.
No, no, I think someone before clicked it, and then she didn't know. By the way, guys, don't click the button. You guys don't click it because it was cut out some of your guys' thing. Don't click your thing because then the next person's not gonna have it on, and then. Ready? Here you go.
That's the vice chairman, but not anymore. I retired. As a matter of fact, I'm a teacher for 32 years, and I just retired in May. So I'm very happy about that. Okay, so by the way, this is a picture of my family, and the purple flag up there is Kunta. That's my village that I hail from. Right? This is some of my family, not all of those. That's my wife over there. She's with us. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. So an outline, please. So I'll try and do a little better this time. Last time I couldn't finish all this stuff. So we'll do an introduction, that's what I just did. Then we'll do a land acknowledgement. I'll tell you what that is when we do it. We'll acknowledge our tribal leaders. Native Americans are very much into respect. Right? So we try to respect everybody, regardless of who you are. But certainly our tribal leaders and our people, we don't really see a difference between our leaders and our people. We treat people the same. And then the two things they wanted me to talk about are part of UNESCO, I guess, the standards that you guys are doing today for social awareness, is our federal recognition process and also the history of our tribe. If there's time left over, which it probably won't be, we'll talk about some of this stuff. Maybe I'll let you hear some words. So the first thing we want to do is do what's called a land acknowledgement. Does anybody know the area that you're in? That this was the land of my ancestors? So many, many years ago, right, people came, usually around the 1400s, some people say as early as the 1100s. Western European countries like Holland, the United Kingdom, and France, and Portugal, and these countries had ships, and they would go all over the world, and they would say, say they would go to the United States, and when they did, they would plant a flag, and they would say, this land is now ours. And we claim it in the name of our king or in the name of our queen, right? So now it's no longer your land, now it's our land, right? So I'm here to tell you, right, and the government agrees with us, that this land is our land. So we're going to talk about a land acknowledgement. Does that make sense? All right. So Mayuya, let's say that together. That means hello or hi or something like that. Mayuya? Very good. Okay, so that means greetings, like hello, right? So Mayuya, Natun, right? That means my name is Dr. Richard Rodman. Noon, and some of our words are really long, right? Ahashwish, that means I'm Ahashan. I'm a lineal descendant of our ancestors who were the original, the official archives of Mission San Juan Capistrano. So has anybody been to the Mission San Juan Capistrano? You did that during fifth grade, right? some of the mission trips. Most of you went to San Juan Capistrano mission. My ancestors built that, right? Not because they wanted to, but because somebody came over and said, "You're our slaves now. Build that for us." So that's the history, kind of like the United States did also for many countries in Africa. Okay, so I'm from the village, let's see, Noon Patuatan. I'm from the village of Patuatan. There's many villages, probably over 100 villages in Orange County. This is the main village, or the mother village. Okay. Nui, which is my mother. Right? Two, see, Zudut. So Zudut is my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother. So when you look at my tribal ID card, I'll go back to that for just a second. You can see right here that it says my historic ancestor is Zudut. First, when she became, when the Spaniards came and Christianized her, right, her name became Maria Fuencia. But her Indian name is Zudut, right? And Zoget was my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. So Zoget was the husband, and Zudut was the wife, right? But then they became Christians, right, because they had to. Nobody said, do you want to? They said, you are. So that's called genocide. When I tell you what to do, and if you don't do it, I'm going to kill you, right? It's basically forcing you to do something. So that's what happened. And then next, Zudut had children, and that's Chilenga, and then Chilenga had children, and that's Kota. So those are my, what they call progenitors. And so my great-great-great-grandmother is Zudut, and she was enslaved at the Mission San Juan Capistrano beginning in the early 1700s. 1741 was a written date, we think. We don't know exactly because when the Spaniards came, Native Americans didn't really keep written records. Everything was just oral. We just said, nothing was written down. So today I would like to acknowledge that we're gathered here today. We're gathered in the unceded lands of the Juanillo Band of Mission Indians, Haudenosaunee Nation. Does anybody know what the word unceded means? This one right here? Unceded? No one? Go ahead. Okay, so you heard the word. It just means that I took something from you, but I didn't ask for it. Right? So if somebody took your cell phone and you didn't say it was okay to take it, it's like, hey, give me back my cell phone. I didn't cede that to you. It's unceded. They just took it. So we were here, and then somebody came and just took it. So it's our unceded land. Thankfully, you'll see in just a moment, the state of California and the county of Orange acknowledges us that this is our land. So it's the unceded land. We are the original inhabitants of what is Orange County today. These lands were taken from our ancestors in the process of colonization. You know what colonization is? You ever heard that word, colonization? Yeah. Does anybody know what it means? So obviously my ancestors had different customs, different things that they did, right? But all of a sudden the Spaniards came and said, you will now be Christians, you'll dress like this, you can't marry, right, a Haudenosaunee anymore. You can't marry from the people of your own family. And, right, those ceremonies that you do, you can't do those anymore, right? And all these different things, you can't do that anymore. Now you have to do what we said. You have to do it like us.
No, just follow them.
Right? So we're Spaniards and we do things like this. So that's when we colonized, right? So when people used to be one way and then they're forced to be a different way, that's colonization. So including the physical and cultural genocide, right? That's another word we can talk about of the Haudenosaunee people. So this territory acknowledgement was affirmed on August 19, 1993 by the state of California in Assembly Joint Resolution number 48. So that means the state of California acknowledged us and said, yep, you're the original inhabitants of this land. And then on March 7, 2006, the Orange County Resolution number 06028, so the County of Orange, the one that we're in right now, they also wrote it in their government. We are and continue to be the stewards of this land for time immemorial. So that means we're our stewards. We're going to take care of this land. The Haudenosaunee tribal territory extends to the Pacific Ocean on the west, including the Channel Islands, the Pamu, which is Catalina Island. How many people have been to Catalina? Kind of cool, right? An island right off the coast. So our ancestors are there too. It's 26 miles from San Pedro. So it's pretty far to go. So we know they had some pretty good boats to get over there. Right? Also Hagana, which is San Nicolas Island. Most of you haven't been there. Most people can't go there. Campar, which is San Clemente Island. The military uses that one. Parts of Los Angeles County to the north, including the village of Pomona at Cal State Long Beach. That's where I went to school. That's where I got my degrees. So when I went there, I wore a shirt that said Cal State Pomona. And I don't know if everybody understood what was going on, right? But we're actually in a village right now, so if this land wasn't here, if we would go back 300 years, what would this look like? Where we're at right now, where Cypress High School is. What would it look like? It'd be an Indian village here. Right? So it'd be an Indian village. Okay? So in Cal State Long Beach, the Indian village there was called Pomona. And parts of Riverside County to the east, parts of Camp Pendleton to the south, including the village of Panay, which is San Mateo. Almost, by the way, almost all the villages are right along rivers. Is there any rivers around here in this area? No? Okay, so I live right along the Santa Ana River Trail in Costa Mesa. And I actually lived in a village where my ancestors were about 13,000 years ago. They say between 10 and 13,000 years ago. Okay, that village is called Lucca. And then right next to it is another village called Ganga. Okay, so Panay, which is San Mateo Uxmal, which is Las Flores, that became Luisengo territory. And then Quipame, which is San Antonio. Our Hashman ancestors and their descendants were enslaved and were the original labor force for the construction of some of the key landmarks in Orange County. Right? So when you went to the Mission San Juan Capistrano, did they tell you that slaves built it? They didn't tell you that, did they? But that's the truth. If you ask them, they'll tell you. That's not something they want to say, right? Okay. So San Juan Capistrano, the adobes, those are the old houses. In San Juan, in Orange County, such as the Los Rios adobe and the Montanez adobe in San Juan, and the Estancia adobe in Costa Mesa. Okay, thank you. So many of our ancestors, both men and women, played key roles in development. So it looks like it went really, really slow. Sorry. Okay, so I'll do this anyway. It says here we want to acknowledge our tribal leaders. I told you an election was just held recently in January 18th. And these are our tribal leaders right here. So these together, they call them a team. And over here, this guy right here is our chief. So this is our new chief. And his name or title would be called Lua. Right? And then the vice chairman over here, Andrew, who would be called the Yaka. Okay, that's my time's over. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and that will be the end of the second session of Social Justice Day.
One more? Yo, tell Devin to stream, bro. Devin, come over here. Go ahead.
There's no way we're going
Here,
out.
go. Devin. Devin, come stream. Anaya, sub me out with Devin, bro. Hey, Mr. D. Switch Devin out. Mr. D, switch Devin out.
Yeah, I should. But I want it to be good.